white roses stained crimson. The soft, pure wedding dress draped over my body was splattered with warm, fresh blood, bright and glaring against the ivory fabric like countless blooming cursed flowers. The grand wedding venue that should have been filled with blessings, applause, and romance turned into a terrifying and bizarre crime scene in an instant. My groom, Galen Voss, the man I had loved silently for 8 years, the man who finally chose to marry me after years of entanglement, lay quietly on the floor of our luxury presidential wedding suite, his throat slit open with a sharp blade. Blood soaked the expensive custom carpet, spread to the feet of the white wedding dressing table, and dyed all the delicate cosmetics and wedding jewelry dark red. He committed suicide the moment the wedding ceremony ended, before we could even walk out of the suite to accept the guests' blessings. Cold, decisive, premeditated. And he left me the most vicious, most thorough death trap in the world. On the clean mirror of the dressing table, under the crystal wedding crown that was supposed to symbolize eternal happiness, lay 2 sealed white envelopes, neatly placed side by side, with Galen's familiar, elegant handwriting on the cover. 2 letters, 2 destinies. One buried me completely. The first letter was a criminal accusation letter, straightforward and cruel, without a single trace of warmth. In the letter, Galen clearly and firmly accused me, Aloan Reed, his bride of less than an hour, of being the real murderer behind the Cross family's tragic car crash 10 years ago. 10 years ago, a tragic highway car crash destroyed the entire Cross family. The parents died on the spot, and the only daughter, Mallory Cross, was severely injured physically and mentally, falling into long-term mental collapse, and had to be sent to a top-secret private rehabilitation institution in Europe for long-term isolation and treatment until now. The case was defined as a pure traffic accident by the police back then, with no clues of homicide, no suspicious persons, and was sealed as an accident file for 10 full years. But Galen's letter completely overturned the conclusion of the police's official case. He wrote clearly that I had long been obsessed with him, crazy about marrying him, and regarded Mallory Cross, his childhood sweetheart and only beloved, as my mortal enemy. In order to eliminate my love rival completely, in order to clear all obstacles to marry Galen, I deliberately modified the vehicle braking system of the Cross family's private car, carefully planned the highway crash, and created the illusion of a traffic accident. My goal was to kill Mallory and take her place by Galen's side. He admitted in the letter that he had known the truth for many years, but had been trapped in pain and entanglement. He had no choice but to pretend to be gentle and approach me, even agreeing to marry me, just to wait for the Day of Atonement. The second letter was a love letter, full of lingering affection and desperate nostalgia, every word revealing his lifelong, unswerving love for Mallory Cross. He confessed that he had never loved me for a single second in his life. All his tenderness, approach, and compromise over the years were fake performances. His marriage to me was the most painful compromise in his life. He could never forget Mallory, never forgive the sin I committed against his beloved girl and the Cross family. For 10 years, he endured the torment of knowing the truth, watching the murderer who destroyed his beloved's family stay by his side, watching me pretend to be gentle and devoted, enjoying the life that should have belonged to Mallory. He wrote that he could no longer bear the weight of this ugly truth. Every day of staying with me was a kind of torture and sin. Therefore, he chose to commit suicide on our wedding day as his final atonement for his years of cowardice and compromise. Before committing suicide, he had transferred all his family property, personal assets, and inheritance rights to international charitable organizations unconditionally, leaving me with no profit, no reputation, no shelter. His last wish in the letter was to urge the police and the public to reinvestigate the 10-year-old car crash case, let the hidden truth be exposed to the sun, and let me, the real murderer who killed the Cross family and destroyed Mallory's life, pay the legal price for my crime. 2 letters, one accusing me of bloody murder, one announcing his lifelong love for others. On my wedding day, I became the most vicious, cruel, and hypocritical criminal in the eyes of the world overnight. The wedding scene was surrounded by media reporters who rushed over after hearing the news. The police car's siren pierced the sky, and countless flashing cameras were aimed at me, the bride covered in blood. The scandal spread like wildfire across the city, the country, and the entire network in less than an hour. # wedding day groom suicide accuses bride of 10-year family murder #. Hashtag Elowen Reed cold-blooded murder, hashtag. Hashtag Galen Voss lifelong love from Mallory cross hashtag. Hot search headlines exploded one after another, occupying all public opinion platforms. All the past gentle rumors between Galen and me were completely overturned. All my devotion and persistence over the years were defined as crazy and perverted stalking. Relatives, friends, classmates, and colleagues all stood on the opposite side of public opinion, condemning my cruelty and hypocrisy, feeling sorry for Galen's desperation, and grieving for the miserable experience of the innocent Mallory Cross. The whole world thought I was finished. They thought I would collapse, panic, cry and defend myself hysterically, fall into the abyss of public opinion trial, and be pushed into prison by the irreversible evidence and public opinion pressure. But they were wrong. Facing the body of my dead groom, facing the 2 deadly letters on the dressing table, facing the overwhelming condemnation from the whole network and the world, I did not panic, did not collapse, and did not even have the slightest trace of fear. My heart was calm, even cold and calm. Because 10 years ago, a man from 10 years in the future had crossed time and space, found me who was still young and ignorant, and told me all the truths that were about to happen today. He told me about Galen's wedding day suicide, about the 2 fatal letters, about the 10-year frame-up conspiracy, about the upcoming global scandal and my doomed reputation ruin. He told me all the hidden, twisted, terrifying truths that no one in this world knew. He was future Galen. The Galen who had experienced 10 years of time, 10 years of lies, 10 years of pain and regret, crossed the long river of time just to warn me, to let me see through the huge conspiracy woven for me, to let me survive this doomed wedding day doomsday. I have waited for this day for 10 full years. I have endured 10 years of faking gentleness, 10 years of pretending to be humble and devoted, 10 years of letting the world misunderstand me. Today, the trap laid for me by fate and human malice finally exploded as scheduled. And my counterattack, my 10-year dormant revenge, officially kicked off at this moment. Chapter 2 Future Time Travel Warning, the first layer of truth subversion. 10 years ago, it was a rainy midnight in late autumn. I was only 18 years old then, a young girl who had just secretly fallen in love with Galen Voss, who was brilliant, elegant, and outstanding. I was lying on the bed tossing and turning, thinking about Galen's gentle smile when he greeted me during the day, thinking about the rumors of his deep love for Mallory Cross, feeling inferior and confused. At that midnight when the rain was pouring and the thunder was rolling, a strange man suddenly appeared in my closed bedroom out of thin air. He was exactly the same as Galen, but older, deeper, and covered with endless fatigue, despair, and vicissitudes that young Galen never had. His eyes were scarlet, his figure was thin and haggard, and his whole body exuded the cold breath of walking out of hell. He was Galen from 10 years in the future. He told me that he had spent 10 years trying to break the shackles of time, risking the collapse of his soul and the dissipation of his consciousness, just to cross back to this night and tell me the truth of everything. At first, I thought it was a nightmare, a fantasy caused by my unrequited love. But every word he said accurately predicted every trivial thing that would happen in my next 10 years, accurately predicted every choice I would make, every encounter I would have, every misunderstanding I would bear. He told me firmly, don't love me, don't approach me, don't marry me. On your wedding day 10 years later, I will commit suicide and frame you for the Cross family's murder. I was shocked and confused at that time, unable to understand why the man who was gentle to me in the future would choose to destroy me cruelly on the wedding day. Then future Galen told me the first layer of brain-burning truth that overturned all my cognition. The 10-year-old Cross family car crash was never my crime. It was never an accident either. The real mastermind behind the scenes was Mallory Cross, the so-called innocent victim who was sympathized by the whole world. Mallory had been crazy about Galen since childhood, possessive and extreme. She couldn't tolerate any woman approaching Galen, and she was extremely afraid that Galen would abandon her because of her growing personality defects. 10 years ago, she personally modified her family's vehicle braking system, deliberately created a fatal car crash, and planned to fake her own death in the accident, completely bind Galen's heart with guilt, and make Galen remember her forever. But she miscalculated the severity of the accident. Her parents died on the spot because of her modification. She survived by luck, but suffered severe physical and mental trauma and was forced to pretend to be a poor victim who was devastated by the accident. She hid in the European Rehabilitation Institution, not for treatment, but for escape and layout. She remotely manipulated public opinion all year round, constantly brainwashing Galen, making Galen believe that the accident was caused by external malice and making Galen fall into endless guilt for failing to protect her. And I was the best scapegoat she carefully selected. Because I was the only person who had been close to Galen besides her since childhood, because I had a faint crush on Galen, because I was simple and soft-hearted, and most importantly, because I had no powerful family background and no sufficient evidence to defend myself. Mallory spent 10 years paving the way, constantly hinting and guiding Galen, implanting the wrong memory in Galen's mind that I modified the car to kill her family, and constantly strengthening Galen's hatred and misunderstanding of me. Galen's so-called lifelong love for Mallory was actually 10 years of emotional kidnapping and brainwashing. His so-called atonement suicide on the wedding day was also a trap carefully induced by Mallory. Mallory wanted Galen to die on our wedding day, completely ruin my reputation and life with Galen's death and accusation letter, eliminate her last rival in love, and let Galen's eternal guilt and love stay on her forever. Future Galen told me that he had woken up too late. In the original timeline, he was completely brainwashed by Mallory. He firmly believed that I was the murderer who destroyed the Cross family. He endured hatred and grievance to marry me, and finally chose suicide to atone for his mistake of marrying the enemy, and framed me for all the crimes. In that timeline, I had no future warning, no preparation, no evidence to defend myself. I was convicted of indirect murder by public opinion, ruined my reputation completely, was abandoned by all my relatives and friends, and finally fell into depression and committed suicide in despair. And Mallory, behind the scenes, reaped all the benefits. She became the eternal white moonlight in everyone's heart, the most pitiful and innocent victim. She enjoyed Galen's lifelong love and the world's endless sympathy and lived a superior life in Europe. After Galen's death, she completely cleared all her traces, and no one could find out her crime for a lifetime. Future Galen spent 10 years investigating the truth, breaking through countless time barriers, and finally found all the evidence of Mallory's crime. But in the original timeline, everything was irreparable. I was dead, he was dead, and the real criminal was at large. Therefore, he exhausted all his spiritual power to travel back 10 years, just to give me a chance of rebirth and revenge. He left me all the encrypted evidence files he had collected in 10 years of investigation, told me all Mallory's layout details and hidden tricks, and asked me to pretend to be ignorant for 10 years, lurk beside Galen, wait for the wedding day when the trap exploded, and complete the ultimate counterkill. Before leaving, future Galen looked at me with endless regret and pain in his eyes. Eloan, I'm sorry I hurt you in the original timeline this time. Don't trust me, don't pity me, don't be soft-hearted to anyone. Avenge yourself, expose all the truth, and let the real criminal pay the price. Live well, forget me, and be free. After he finished speaking, his figure gradually dissipated in the rainy night, completely disappearing into the air, leaving only me who was shocked and awake, starting my 10-year dormant layout. For 10 years, I hid all my sharpness, pretended to be gentle, humble, and infatuated. Let the world think that I was a crazy woman who pestered Galen. Let Galen be gradually brainwashed by Mallory's hints, and let all misunderstandings accumulate and ferment. I watched Galen's attitude towards me turn from gentle and distant to cold and contradictory, watched him fall deeper and deeper into Mallory's emotional trap, watched the whole world prepare to sentence me to death on the wedding day. I never explained, never refuted, never showed any abnormality. I was waiting for today, waiting for Galen's suicide, waiting for the 2 deadly letters to appear, waiting for the public opinion to fall to the bottom, waiting for the moment when everyone thought I was defeated. Because only when the trap is completely exploded and the public opinion is completely one-sided can my subsequent reversal be shocking enough, can Mallory's 10-year disguise be completely shattered, and can all the sins be returned to the real criminal. Chapter 3 Public Opinion Collapse. The whole world judges me guilty. Back to the wedding suite covered in blood. The police rushed into the room quickly, surrounding me in the center of the room. Countless police cameras recorded my every move, and sharp questions came one after another. Ms. Reed, Your husband committed suicide after leaving a letter accusing you of intentional homicide. Do you have anything to explain? 10 years ago, the Cross family car crash was defined as an accident. What hidden truth do you have? Did you threaten Galen for many years, force him to marry you, and lead to his extreme suicide? Reporters squeezed outside the door, rushing to take photos and record videos, their voices noisy and sharp, every word carrying the condemnation of the whole society. The live broadcast of the wedding accident was frantically streamed online, and the comment section was completely occupied by abusive voices. This woman is too terrifying. She killed a whole family for love. Galen is so miserable. He endured 10 years with the murderer of his beloved's family and finally chose suicide to atone for his sins. Mallory is so pitiful. Her family is ruined. She is disabled and ill, and the murderer is still enjoying life and marrying the man she loves. Lock her up for life. This kind of cold-blooded devil doesn't deserve freedom. Galen donated all his property and committed suicide. His determination to atone for his sins is real enough. The evidence is conclusive, and she can't deny it. All the voices in the world are accusing me, defining me as guilty, and sentencing me to moral death in advance. My parents rushed to the scene in a hurry, their faces pale and desperate, trying to defend me, but they had no evidence and could only be drowned in the tide of public opinion. All my friends cut off contact with me instantly for fear of being implicated by my scandal. The Voss family, Galen's relatives, stood aside with cold faces, looking at me with hatred and disgust, and had already issued a public statement, completely cutting off all relations with me, firmly believing Galen's accusation and demanding that the police severely punish me. In everyone's eyes, I am the only sinner in this tragic wedding farce. Facing the police's continuous interrogation and the whole network's abuse, I kept silent all the time. I did not cry, did not argue, did not panic. I just stood quietly in the blood-stained wedding dress, my eyes calm and cold, watching everyone's one-sided judgment indifferently. My calmness was interpreted by everyone as extreme guilt and numbness after being exposed. The police took me back to the police station for mandatory interrogation, and the court quickly filed a case to reopen the 10-year Cross family car crash. All the wind and rain came as scheduled, exactly the same as the future Galen's prediction. But no one knew that all this was just the beginning of my revenge. After being taken to the interrogation room, I finally opened my mouth after hours of silence. Facing the police's serious eyes, I said plainly, I don't plead guilty. I didn't kill anyone. The real murderer is not me. The police officer frowned. Galen's suicide letter has clear accusation content, and the logic is complete. Do you have any evidence to prove your innocence? I raised my head, my eyes sharp and firm. I have evidence, but I only hand it over to the special investigation team, and I only explain it to the public when the case is publicly tried. Before that, no one can touch my evidence. My calm and confident attitude made the police present stunned. In their cognition, all the clues point to me as the murderer. There is no possibility of reversal in this case. But my unwavering confidence made them faintly feel that this case may not be as simple as it seems on the surface. The police had no choice but to temporarily suspend the interrogation and set up a special cross-age case investigation team to re-sort out all the clues of the 10-year-old accident. During the period of my detention, public opinion continued to ferment, and the sympathy for Mallory Cross reached its peak. The media repeatedly hyped her miserable experience of losing her family and suffering from mental illness all year round. Many celebrities and public figures spoke out for her, condemning my cruelty and hypocrisy. Mallory's European Rehabilitation Institution also released a statement, saying that Mallory has been suffering from severe depression and PTSD for 10 years, living in pain every day, and it is difficult to heal for life. All public opinion is completely inclined to the so-called victim Mallory. She is the white lotus that everyone pities, and I am the devil that everyone shouts to beat. But I know very well that all her weakness and pain are fake disguises. The woman hiding in the European manner, enjoying luxury and freedom, manipulating public opinion remotely, is the real cold-blooded murderer who killed her parents and framed innocent people. Chapter for the second layer of reversal. Galen's suicide is not atonement, but a trap. 3 days after I was detained, the special investigation team brought me a new investigative clue that shocked everyone and also opened the second layer of brain-burning reversal of the case. The police conducted a professional forensic autopsy on Galen's body and a detailed technical identification of the suicide scene. The final forensic conclusion completely overturned the public's cognition. Galen's death was not a simple suicidal atonement. His fatal throat-cutting wound was standard and neat, with no trembling deviation of ordinary suicidal wounds, no hesitation traces, and the strength and angle were extremely professional, which was in line with the technical characteristics of professional homicide disguised suicide. More importantly, the forensic doctor detected a trace of rare sedative drug residue in Galen's blood. This drug can make people's consciousness blurred and their bodies weak, but it will not leave obvious traces in a short time. In short, Galen did not commit suicide voluntarily. He was drugged and controlled, then disguised as suicide after being killed. The whole wedding day suicide scene was a carefully arranged murder disguise trap. As soon as this forensic result was released, the whole network was in an uproar, and the public opinion that had been completely one-sided was instantly shaken. Everyone was stunned. If Galen didn't commit suicide voluntarily, who killed him? If his accusation letter and love letter were not left voluntarily, who arranged all this frame-up drama? The investigation team immediately reinvestigated the wedding suite scene, conducted a full-scale trace inspection, and finally found a hidden miniature monitoring device in the corner of the suite's ceiling lamp, which had been installed long before the wedding. The device was remotely controlled overseas, and all the monitoring data was automatically uploaded to a foreign server, with zero local backup, extremely hidden and professional. All clues point to overseas remote manipulation. And the only person related to this case who lives overseas all year round is Mallory Cross. The second layer of truth completely surfaced. Galen's so-called 10-year guilt and wedding day atonement were all fake scripts written by Mallory. Mallory has been remotely monitoring Galen's life for 10 years, continuously brainwashing and hinting at him, implanting wrong memories and inducing his wrong cognition. When she found that Galen's suspicion of the accident was gradually increasing and he was about to wake up and investigate the truth, she took the initiative to arrange the wedding day murder frame-up plan. She sent professional killers to sneak into the wedding suite in advance, drugged Galen, killed him neatly, forged the suicide wound, and placed 2 pre-written deadly letters on the dressing table. She perfectly forged the script of groom commits suicide out of guilt and accuses bride of murder, using Galen's death to complete the double killing of reputation and life against me. Her purpose is extremely cruel and thorough. First, use Galen's death to completely ruin my reputation, make me bear the charge of murdering the Cross family, and let me be in prison for life or ruined. Second, use Galen's death and love letter to fix his lifelong love for her, make her the eternal white moonlight in the public's heart, and completely wash away all her suspicious points. Third, use Galen's property donation to cut off all property connections, completely clear her traces of manipulating Galen's assets for 10 years, and achieve absolute innocence. A 3-layer layout, killing 3 birds with 1 stone, 10 years of long-term lurking, precise to every step, terrifying to the extreme. The public was completely shocked by this reversal. The abusive comments all over the network stopped instantly, replaced by countless shocked and questioning voices. No way! Is Mallory not a victim? Is she the mastermind behind the scenes? So we all misunderstood Aloan? She was framed for 10 years. Galen was killed. The whole wedding tragedy is a premeditated murder frame-up. This woman is too terrifying. She killed her parents, killed her beloved man, and framed an innocent person. The public opinion finally began to reverse, and the suspicion of Mallory spread rapidly across the network. Facing the sudden reversal of public opinion, the European Rehabilitation Institution that has been speaking for Mallory immediately fell silent, deleting all previous statements and no longer dared to defend her. But Mallory did not panic at all. She still hid overseas, did not show up, did not respond to any doubts, and continued to maintain her weak and sick persona, letting the public's suspicion ferment, but not solidify. She knew very well that without absolute ironclad evidence, all doubts were just speculation, and she could always stand in the position of a victim to argue and reverse. And she was waiting for me to collapse, waiting for the investigation team to have no evidence, waiting for the public opinion to return to her side again. But she never knew that I had the most absolute, most thorough ironclad evidence that could completely nail her to.